Hey, it's Tinto. Can I talk to you for a sec? Before you get into this weekend's episode, please buy me a coffee. The coffee keeps me energized and keeps the podcast you've grown to love alive. So head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/feeling station and be as generous as you would like. Thanks in advance. I appreciate you.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello.
Yo, what's happening, brother?
I'm good, man. Tinto, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Very, very excited, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You know, this podcast has some men who've told their stories, but the majority have been women. And you are a guy. I am so chuffed, Dixie. Thank you so much, bro.
We have to balance things out at some point.
Absolutely. Thanks for connecting, man. How you feeling?
I'm okay, man. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, you ready to do this?
I'm ready to do this.
Awesome. For those who are listening to this podcast for the first time, it touches on breakup stories that people would like to talk about, with a view to give you real lessons from my guest's story. And it's doing really well for two reasons. One, I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the fun part. I'm going to give you the name that I'm going to use for the duration of the episode. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah. So your name is from Senegal, and the name that I'm giving you is Omar, which is O-M.
Omar.
Yep, O-M-A-R.
A-R.
Yeah. And what that
Omar,
name means is
Mhm.
an eloquent and gifted speaker.
Ah.
Would you describe yourself as somebody who is a gifted speaker?
To some extent, yeah.
To some extent. I guess we'll see how that pans out in the episode.
We'll see how that goes.
Right? And what name are you going to give the girl that you're going to talk about?
I'm gonna call it Ginger.
Ginger.
Yeah.
For some reason, Wizkid's song just came to my head when you said that. Why Ginger?
So Ginger is probably because I looked at the characteristics of the personality of the girl that I'm gonna talk about at the time. So to me, like Ginger is the thing we associate with cheekiness, hotness, so boldness,
Okay.
free, feisty.
Okay, so she was that kind
Bad
of
girl
person,
vibes,
yeah?
basically. Bad girl vibes.
I really like that, Omar. I really, really like that. Cool.
Yeah, man.
So this is a story about Omar and Ginger, yeah?
Yes.
Good stuff. And the second reason why the podcast is doing great is there are some real lessons that people learn from the stories they share. So what would you like people listening to your episode today to learn from your story?
I really thought about this, hey, and because it's something that happened a while back, there is definitely some important lessons that I think the listeners can learn from.
Yes.
But I've got only two lessons. So I think one of the explanations for the second one is probably something that may be morph into, it might change into a third lesson, but it's mainly two lessons.
Let's have them.
So the first lesson is desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yay. I've heard that before when people have had some really difficult situations, and for it to come here like this, I'm ready for this one.
So desperate times call for desperate measures. And by this, what I just mean is, so in desperate times, people can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people can become anything.
And they can do things that are out of character because they're desperate, right?
Yes. Okay. So maybe it's one thing probably that we'll learn in the story.
Yeah.
But then I might be wrong to make that judgment. But then as the story progresses and I describe the context in which the story was happening, then maybe it might make sense why I stated that lesson.
Right. Yeah. Good.
And then the second lesson is infatuation is not enough to justify getting into a relationship.
Ooh.
So
you need to have more substance. Yeah.
I need to add substance. So you know how guys meet girls.
Yeah.
So normally we say most men describe it as a primal instinct.
Yeah.
So when you see a girl for the very first time, then you are physically attracted to her.
Yes.
So that's the thing that attracts you to the girl before you even know her,
Yeah.
before you've even talked to her.
Yes.
So that's some form of infatuation.
I see.
But then in my case, that's why I'm saying infatuation is not enough to justify getting into a relationship.
That makes
And
a
physical
lot of
attraction
sense.
is not the only factor. Physical attraction is not the only factor that matters when you are pursuing someone.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Great. So the two lessons that I have for for this story here, the first one up: desperate times call for desperate measures, and lesson number 2: infatuation is not enough to justify getting into a relationship.
Yes.
Great. Now let's get straight into this, brother. Now, tell me how and where you met Ginger.
Okay, so that's a very interesting story. It happens in two parts, actually.
Okay.
So there is when I met her for the very first time, and then when I decided to get into a relationship.
Right.
So the story about the relationship happens in 2008. And this is, I suppose it's, if I mention the country, it might not disclose the anonymity, but it happens in Zimbabwe, right? And this is 2008. So this is when the relationship starts, and this is when it ends also.
Within the same period.
Within the same period. And allow me to say, this is in my own book of records.
Yeah.
This is the shortest relationship I've ever had.
Wow. how many months in total are we talking about?
We're talking about 3 months.
Oh, 3 months from start
3
to
months
finish. Yo.
to finish. But then listen,
Hey.
Tito, listen. So listen. So there's a backstory. So I remember I said it happens in two parts.
Okay,
right?
okay.
So the first part is when I initially met her. And that happened a couple of years before that. So that happened when we were still in high school.
Okay.
So that was at about in, I think, the year 2000 or the year 2001. Somewhere about that time period. So how I met this girl is I'm in high school. She's in high school. And we go to school together. So I'm seeing this girl in high school. You know, when you're in high school and you're still trying to figure out your puberty age, that kind of thing. You're growing up basically.
Yeah.
And then you start having crushes on girls. But then the thing about that time and that phase of growing up is you're still trying to figure out how to even ask out a girl in the first place. So you don't even know what to do, right? So I see this girl, she's my junior in school. And I'm like, I think I like this girl, you know? And every time I kept seeing her in school, she's exhibiting this feistiness, wild and free, you know, like she's that girl, like she's bad girl vibes, you know?
Yeah.
And she's pretty, by the way. So she's very pretty. And I'm like, I think I like this girl. But then I didn't have the confidence to approach her. Right.
Why is that?
So
but why
when
didn't
I
you have
had
that confidence to approach her? What was it about it that scared you?
You know, wild and free girls, like bad girl vibes in high school. And you're just a guy who's still trying to figure out his own feelings. And but I was a nerd back in high school, basically.
Okay.
I was a shy guy. I was Mr. Shy Guy, and I was a nerd. So I was the guy who was all about the books, right?
Right.
So normally those type of guys don't ask out girls, you know.
Why?
and one of the other reasons was so in that time period in high school. So we in Zimbabwe, remember, right? So at that age, it's taboo to be talking about having a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Why is it taboo though? Is it because they say you fail your exams?
That's what they always told us. So if you start paying attention to girlfriends and boyfriends, you're gonna not focus in school.
Yeah.
You're gonna get carried away. Either you're gonna get someone pregnant. All the nonsense, all the things they tell us. So stay away from relationship.
That's not entirely untrue though, because I remember being told the same thing, and I obviously didn't listen to my folks. And there's a set of exams. I won't say which ones, because then people will know which chick I'm talking about. But there's a set of exams I didn't do very well in. I got compared to my older brother, and in comparison to what he scored, my scores were very poor. And part of the reason why they were poor is because I was going through some kind of breakup about a month before the exams. I remember it happened in October, and the exams were in November. And the outcome was obvious, because I remember I couldn't study for the bulk of those exams. So yeah, I know you do understand. You say it's taboo, and I totally get it. So for you, I guess. So for you, I guess you were just sticking to what you were being told. Don't get involved with chicks. It will mess up with your school.
Don't get involved with chicks.
Yeah.
Mess up with chicks. They'll mess you up in school. But anyway, so what I'm still trying to figure out, that I like this girl and I think I like her, but I can't exactly approach her because there's all this weirdness going on. So I'm like, okay, let me hang on to those thoughts and maybe let me forget about them. Right?
Yeah.
But then it so happens that there's a guy that I was friends with in school. And then we used to play video games at his house. So we would go there and then spend the day playing video games. This guy had they call it the TV games. He had a Nintendo.
Yeah.
But his parents had created a back room on their yard for him to play video games. So we would just come to his house, go into that back room, and then play video games and then go home. We never used to get into the house.
Yeah.
So one of the days, I'm in the yard and we're playing games, right? And then I see this girl at the house. And I'm like, whoa. And I asked the dude, I'm like, dude, so who's that? He says, she's my sister. I'm like,
oh, it was actually his sister.
It was his sister,
And all these years, you're not known. You didn't know.
I hadn't known.
Wow.
So I all the time, I never knew.
That's mad.
So
yeah.
That's when things got interesting, because so I start frequenting the house. To play video games,
yeah, whatever, man.
Also because there's a bad girl in the house, so we start giving each other the eye contact. The talking eyes.
Yeah.
So some chemistry starts happening at that stage, right? And then I start relating to this girl, but then it never developed into a relationship at that stage.
Why not?
I suppose that fear of having a girlfriend in high school, and
it was still
basically my fear of girls. I'm still growing up, right? So I'm still nerdy. So I don't even have the right words to charm a girl at that stage.
Okay.
So that episode finishes off, right? And then I go into college, and then we go separate ways. And then in 2008 now, which is like about 7 years later. So I've graduated now. I'm working. I've started my first formal job. I ran into this girl in town on one of my lunch breaks. And I ran into her and I'm like, oh, Ginger.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, Ma, I remember you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I know you. You're from the hood. They're like, yeah, from the hood. So I'm like, okay, so what's up? What's going on? And then so we catch up very quickly. And I think there was something about that moment that took me back to the crush I had for her in high school.
Yes.
So immediately the crush came back. And by now she's like all grown. She's like bloomed, right? I'm like, you know what? I used to be scared of this girl. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a shot.
So in that instant, in that moment, you decided, I'm gonna give it a shot.
I'm gonna give it a shot.
Tell me exactly what it is about her that you saw, that you liked so much to say, nah, I'm going for this now. Did she have
So,
pretty eyes? Did she have a pretty smile? What was it?
man, she had a hard body. Let me not lie.
Uh.
That's the first thing. So she was well built,
Wow. Okay.
brother. She was well built. She's got
So
all
what
the
is it that
curves.
you're really after? Because when you
Indeed.
say that, I mean, the first thing you mentioned wasn't even her teeth, her smile, her lips, her eyes, her ears. You were straight onto the body. So at this point, were
Exactly.
you already imagining yourself having sex with her?
Definitely, bro.
So that's what it
Definitely.
was. It was.
That's
Oh
what it
my, you're
was.
a
So,
bad boy, you know.
and I was like, you know what?
Uh,
I've had a crush on this girl already since high school.
mm.
Like, she's just getting better and better. So I'm like, you know what?
So now it's
I'm
time
gonna
to
have a piece
execute.
of this next OD.
Wow, this guy.
So this is what happens, right? So I'm like, you know what? It's nice meeting you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, let's link up, So give me your contact.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe one of these days we can do lunch or something, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. I think that's a good idea. And this is 2008, remember? So remember the year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's important to remember the year because
Okay. I've made a
this
note
is
now.
this is Zimbabwe in 2008.
Mm.
We are in the middle of an economic
Yeah.
crisis,
In
right?
fact, I think that's when
So
it was
there's
at its worst, wasn't it?
hyperinflation. There's hyperinflation.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get things from the shops anyway. There's no jobs. Like, you are even fortunate enough to have a job.
Yeah.
So I'm the guy at that stage who's graduated in computer science with a computer science degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an IT professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a good job. I'm working for one of the big
Companies.
financial
Yeah.
services companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this girl is, just getting by, trying to make ends meet, doing
Mm-hmm.
something. She was actually volunteering at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there was something about me being financially stable
Mm-hmm.
that maybe made her to pay attention to me.
So how would she have
But
noticed
we'll find
this?
out.
How would she have
Ah,
noticed this?
so when we ran into each other,
Mm.
the day that we met, right? When we ran into each other in town.
Mm.
So
Mm.
we were just exchanging details. So we're like, so what are you doing now? I'm like, yo, so I'm doing this. So, and then I finished school and then I did this. This is how I qualified and this is where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah.
And what are you doing? She's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. She's like, yeah, you look like you got it made, brother.
Oh, okay. Okay. So she noticed something.
She noticed something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that point in time, we were in suits, we were in ties,
Right. Makes
right.
sense now.
Makes sense, right? So 2008 Zimbabwe, this is the economic crisis, and it's crazy, it's insane. So I think maybe for the benefit of your listeners,
Mm-hmm.
something that they can use to imagine the type of situation or environment that we were living in is the economic depression of 1929.
Oh yes, yes.
That, or what's currently happening in Venezuela right now.
Yeah.
So where people carry buckets of money or wheelbarrows of money just to get bread. So that's the environment we're living in. Right?
Yes.
So things are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm this guy who looks like he's making it in life.
Mm-hmm.
So we exchange contact details with this girl, and I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely contact you. Let's do something quickly. And in a few days, I give her a phone call. I'm like, yo, what's happening, Ginger? So do you feel like doing lunch? She's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I go pick her up, and then we go grab lunch. And then that's when I reminded her, I'm like, but Ginger, I had a crush on you back in high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah, I know you had a crush. So
Oh.
I used to see the way you looked at me, the way you behaved around me. I'm like, yeah. So I had a huge crush on you.
Isn't it funny how sometimes we think we're doing a really good job of hiding what we are thinking in our heads and what our body is saying, but the body language that we're exuding is completely selling us off. And we are oblivious to it.
Precisely.
And this is what was happening with you. You're busy
It was
thinking,
what was
I'm doing
happening.
a good job of hiding this. She doesn't know I got
Nah.
feelings, but she clocked you from day one,
She clocked
bro.
me from day one. She was like, I've always known.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, so if you've always known, so you definitely know how I felt about you back in the day.
Mm.
So you know what? When I ran into you the other day, like those feelings just came back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm available. And if you're not in a relationship or something, why don't we try it out? Why
Just
don't
like
we
that.
see just like that, brother?
Wow.
Just like that, brother. so I was expecting a long chase or for her to play hard to get. She
Yeah.
didn't. She was like, let's go for it, brother. I'm like, okay,
Just
this is
like
very
that
quick.
on
Just like
during that
that,
lunch
bro.
break.
Man.
Yo, fam, that is
it, it,
mad,
it,
you know.
it gets crazier than that.
Okay.
So we link up and we're like, okay, so we're trying out this relationship thing, right? So let's start seeing each other. I'm like, cool, yeah, cool beans. Let's go for it. So we start texting each other. Back in the day, there was no WhatsApp.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no instant messaging. So you either had to send an SMS or you had to call.
Mm-hmm.
So we buttering each other, we marinating each other on SMS or phone calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, cool. I think this is going okay. And then because we were staying about pretty much the same hood, I used to probably one of the days I could just be like, you know what, let me grab the taxi with you, the bus,
Mm-hmm.
and then drop you off. And then the other day, maybe she'll go by herself. But then we were staying practically in the same hood, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So this is now like a week into things. And I'm starting to build this relationship with this girl.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's one thing that starts happening now, which I didn't think I like,
Okay.
but I was like, you know what? Maybe it's me who's still trying to learn this person. Like, we don't know anything about each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 7 years, so a lot has happened. So I might need to relearn this person altogether. So, yeah, let me give it a chance and see how it goes, right?
Mm.
So this girl starts. So the first thing she did was she stopped me from taking her home with the bus. So she was like, you know what? I don't think it's a good idea because my dad is very strict. So if he sees dropping me off, it's gonna be a big issue. So he's an African man, and
Mm.
African men are strict,
Yeah.
and they don't want guys around their daughters, right? So she's like, if he sees you or if my brother sees you, because my brother doesn't know we talk to each other, by the way, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be a problem.
Mm.
So you know what, dude, let's stop this going home together after work. I'm like, okay, cool beans. I can see you lunchtimes or any other time, or we can see each other on the weekends.
Mm.
So when I get to see her and we away from the hood and it's the lunchtime or maybe sometime after work, but before we go home, we were all nice and cool, like kissing,
Mm.
touching, holding hands. Like
Mm.
it's beginning to build up, right?
Mm.
But then when she has to go home, she quickly dismisses me. She's like, you know what, dude, I gotta go. And it's getting late and I'm gonna be in trouble with my parents. So I gotta go. I gotta leave you. I'm like, but can we hang on for like 15 more minutes? It's like, no. Don't do that. So I'm still like, yeah, well, she does have an African
Yeah.
father. So it makes sense.
That's what I'm
So
thinking in my head whilst I'm listening to this as well.
maybe she's got a curfew or something.
Mm.
So give a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's fine, not a problem. So she tells me, you know what, dude, since I can't see you after work because I've got a curfew now, my dad just told me I need to be home by this time. So apparently I can't see you after work anymore.
Mm.
So I'll see you during lunch times. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
that works. You can see me during lunch times and on the weekends. We're like, okay, that's fine. So The lunch times, oh brother, the lunch times she would never fail to make an appearance.
Wow.
Because this is what was happening
Mm-hmm.
at that time. She would call me up 30 minutes or 15 minutes before lunch. She's like, hey babe, how are you doing? We're doing lunch today, right? I'm like, yeah, we're doing lunch. Of course, I have nothing else, no one else to do lunch with, so
Yeah.
I might as well do it with my sugar. So she's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's do this. So we go for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first 2 weeks, it was just me and her. By the third week now, she's bringing a friend over for lunch.
My guy. My guy. My guy. My
So,
guy.
Peter, listen. So the first 3 lunch days, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. A friend of Bay is a friend, so
But
not a problem.
wait a minute. These I can understand the first appearance of the friend. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, of course, that's excusable.
Uh,
By the second one, I'll be given a side eye. Now, were
mhm.
these happening on 3 consecutive days, like
Three
on a month?
consecutive
So, like a
days,
Monday,
right?
Tuesday, Wednesday, she comes with a spare wheel.
She comes with the spare wheel. So
Mm.
after the third day, I confront her. I'm like, yeah, babes, you know what? There's something not right about
Mm.
what's happening now. She's like, no, babes, listen, things are hard. And can't you know we're volunteering at this place where I'm working? So, so you working in a financial institution, brother. So
My guy, you were as good as an ATM. You're as good as a cash machine at that point, except that you weren't dishing out
man,
cash, you were dishing out
man,
meals
man.
to the
So
needy.
that was so that was happening, Tinto. And I suppose the soft side of me was like, yeah, but she's making sense because she's volunteering, her friend is volunteering, so they probably can't afford in the first place. So I'm okay. So it's
But
really
why
not much anyway.
but why did you put yourself in that position of savior?
Listen. So
Because you didn't have to.
so remember, I'm infatuated with this girl.
Mm.
So I haven't chowed the meat yet.
Eesh.
I am trying to marinate my chicken here. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
You're like, that's cool, because because
it's cool.
you get an end goal.
Yeah, I'm investing basically. So I'm gonna I'm gonna
Yeah.
reap dividends, right? So she moved away from lunch, and then now it was airtime, right? Now it was Tinto. Tinto, man, the way you laugh. The reasons were they made sense, Tinto, because
Like what? Like what?
she told me the one day she's like, babes, you know what? So I love SMSing you when we send each other sweet nothings, and I love making phone calls with you late at night. But I
Yeah.
don't have the airtime to be doing that. So help out.
Okay.
And then it went from there, and then it also went to, so babes, yeah, there's a shoe that I saw in town, and I kind of like want it, but I'm running short.
Oh, damn, my guy. How many weeks was this now? This was what?
So this is like 4 weeks into it now,
Okay.
right?
So you're now quarter way into the relationship because you said it
Into the
lasted three
relationship now.
months. Okay, so this is
Uh-huh.
week 4 of
This
12.
is week 4, right?
Yes.
And then, but by now I'm starting to get frustrated because in addition to what she was doing there,
Mm.
she was also doing something else. So she was nice and all when she talks to me and she sees me for lunch.
Mm.
But when I try to see her beyond the lunch dates or the weekends, she was not available. So I'm like, baby, it's Saturday. Let me see you. She's like, yeah, I'm going to be at home the whole day and my dad is around. So
So
can't happen.
in your head, what was your gut telling you when all of this was happening in terms of the excuse, etc.?
My gut was telling me, dude, remember this is 2008. We're in an economic crisis. So what she's going through is what a lot of people are going through.
Okay.
So it's fine. It's okay.
Ish. Okay.
So you are in a better position financially. She is not. So if you say you want to build something with her,
then
go
support
ahead.
her. Yeah.
Then support her. So that's the reasoning I used. So she's not seeing me. She on the weekends, she's always busy. She is always making an excuse, right? And then I think we took a little break for like 2 weeks.
What does
after
that
the
mean?
4 weeks.
What does that mean?
So I got angry and I got frustrated.
And what
So
you said something to her? You're like,
I said something to her. I said, you know what, Ginger, I don't like what's going on because I'm trying to start a relationship with you, but you're not available. So I try to see you and you're not available. So I only see you on lunch times, and then lunch is only like 45 minutes an hour. And you always have your friend. So we never get a chance to have a one-on-one and talk together intimately. So, and I never get to see you beyond that. So these days I can't see you after work, and I can't see you on the weekends because your dad is around or you're studying for exams.
So when you decided on this break, were you doing this as a permanent break or a temporary break? In your mind, what was the ultimate goal of that activity?
In my mind, I was trying to push her to realize what she was doing and the consequences of her actions. Not that I wanted to break up with her, I didn't. So I wanted her to change what she was doing and to change her approach. So I was thinking if I just say, let's take a break, she'll come back and then she'll be like, you know what, I do hear you. So let me fix it, or let me fix myself. And then we can continue, right?
That was a risky move, bro.
It was a risky move, man.
So how did that pan out for you?
So I took a break for like 2 weeks. And then in those 2 weeks, I'm not sending sweet nothings anymore, no SMSs. I'm not calling. I'm just randomly, maybe once every 2 days, just like, hi, how are you doing? Good morning. That's it. And then she would reply, hi, I'm okay. That's it. So at the end of 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, so she's still replying SMSs. Sometimes she picks up the phone when I call. So yeah, I think she still has a thing for me. So let me give it a go. Let me continue. So let me just go back to her and tell her what I'm really not happy about, and then we can continue with this. So I go back to her and I say, Ginger, you know what? Let's talk. I'm not happy about what I said I'm not happy about. But then I'm like, I'm giving you the benefit of doubt because things are really tough, you know? And we're living in difficult circumstances. So, but then you know what? Meet me halfway. So I want to do this thing, and you need to be sure that we're doing this together. So let's go for it. She's like, yeah, actually, maybe the reason I've been acting funny about not seeing you is because remember when we met, I told you I was not seeing anyone, but actually I had just broken up with the guy. And so this guy has been trying to get my attention. No, I haven't been giving him attention, but I'm trying to process these feelings because I was in a relationship with him for like over 3 years. So it's really hard to let go of all of that. So I'm like, whoa, okay. Am I a rebound here? She's like, no, you're not a rebound, but I'm just coming out of a bad breakup. So I just didn't feel like talking to anyone, basically. So it's not about you.
It's not you, it's me. Yeah.
It's not you, it's me, right? So I say, okay, but so are you guys getting back together? She said, no, we're not getting back together. So I'm like, so what's hard. So is that decision hard to make? I'm here and I'm in front of your face and I want you and you've said we can do this. So
Yeah.
is that what we're doing or are you thinking of something else? He's like, no, it's been a hard time. So that's why I've been distancing myself. But you know what? You're a nice guy. So let's do this. Bruh, that was a big mistake.
Yo, I can
Because I
I can
agreed to it. I'm like,
imagine.
okay, I hear where you're coming from. So, but if you're saying you're over this guy and it's not going to be a problem, it's okay. Let's continue. That only answered one part of the frustrations I had.
Hmm.
So that only answered why she wasn't available. But it didn't answer the part where I had to buy lunch for her and her friends every
Mm-hmm.
single day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, I'm like, you know what? I still have my infatuation. Dude, she's a hot girl. So, you know what? One of these days,
It will happen.
it will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So let's
Mm.
continue. Aluta continue, comrade.
Yeah.
The struggle continues. So I'm like, let's do this. But she never changed her ways, Tinto. She didn't change at all. So she's still unavailable and she's still only showing up at lunchtime or when she needs some sort of financial assistance. So she'll call me up when she's available. Like if it was a weekend and she wanted to see me, she'd be like, "Hey, sugar, where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, hey, Ginger, what you doing?" He's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm at home." She's like, "Okay, so can you come into town? I want to see you." Then I'll be like, "Okay, let me rush into town." So I get
Yeah.
into town. Where are you, Oma? I'm here. Ginger, where are you? We call each other. Then when I see her, she's like, "Yeah, babes, you know what? Nice to meet you and everything. Oh, I love you, hugs and kisses, everything." But so there's a dress I
Oh
saw.
my gosh. Okay. Okay. Okay, Oma. I think it's clear you are being used here for money.
It was very
You
clear.
know, you were a blesser in quotes, but not in the traditional sense that blessers are known.
Yes.
You know, because in this case you were a blesser boyfriend, you know,
Mhm.
who was supporting her financial needs and her desires to have good shoes and good dresses.
Mhm.
But I've got a more specific personal question here in terms of the physical intimacy. So I know you
Mhm.
guys used to hug, and the way you
Mhm.
described the hug and the kisses almost sounds like just a little peck to say, hey, it's nice to see you.
So when it was in public, it's just a little peck. Nice to see
Okay.
you.
Yes.
Just a hug. But then if we were like in a secluded place together, then we'll do the French kisses, right?
Uh-huh.
So first base, second base, never further than that.
So first base is what? For those who don't understand.
First base is just the kissing and your French kisses, and then you're touching this girl, you're fondling her.
And then second base is
Second base is if she allows you to touch her privates,
mm-hmm.
and then you can play around.
Okay.
So that's the furthest we ever got.
So
But because we in a place where it can't happen because this is not a bedroom and this is not like anywhere else.
so where was it?
So this is like either in a park and then we're sitting on a park bench. Tinto. Man, this is Zimbabwe, bruh.
Yo, I didn't mean to laugh like that,
Do you have to
but
laugh
I
like that,
did. I
Tinto?
didn't mean to, but yeah,
So yeah, that's second base, bruh.
Yay!
So that's second
you,
base.
you know what I find interesting here?
Yeah.
What you're calling a secluded place is probably one of the most public places ever. A park.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it was secluded because not many people used to go there.
Well, not many people that you could see.
Of course, you have a point.
Ah, man. I would have loved to be a
So,
fly on the wall to witness this.
well, so
Okay, so
that's the intimacy we had.
I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're a financially stable guy in an economy that is absolutely struggling. You could
Mm-hmm.
have benefited from supporting a hotel by going to a hotel room, and then you could also have benefited from improved privacy.
Yeah,
And you may have improved your chances of an intimate moment.
I could have,
So, why didn't you do any of that?
because she wouldn't let us get to that stage. So remember, this girl is still, yeah, so I can't see you, so we can't do this, so strict
Yeah, but
parents,
what about the
what?
times that she would go into town on a weekend and say, "Hey, babe, this dress, blah blah blah."
Oh man, so
Couldn't you slip in, some time in there as
dude,
well?
I could, but then she wouldn't allow me, because anytime I tried to go further than what I wanted or what she could allow me, she would either, I suspect she was texting her friend or texting someone to always call her up whenever things got heated, because the phone would ring, Tinto. And then she'll be like, yo, so you know what? There's an emergency
Oh my
at work,
god,
so I gotta go.
this is ridiculous.
It happened, Tinto.
Bro, I needed to hear a story like this, man. I needed something like this. You've literally
Man,
you've made my day, bro. You made my
man, there's
day.
people and then there's people, Tito.
You know what? There's a song by this guy called System Tashida. And there's a line that goes,
Ah,
Anojikiwa
I know.
hata ure.
Yes.
Guys.
And the thing is, we know this Tinto, right? We know this song and this chorus. But then, so, growing up in the ghetto,
Yes.
growing up in the ghetto, so girls used to have this thing where there's a thing they used to say. So if you were in a relationship, or if you were a guy dating a girl, and then you were hesitant to spoil her or buy her things and stuff, they gave you a nickname. They called you Wanga.
Okay.
So a Wanga is like a stingy person, like a
Right.
stingy guy.
Yeah, it's
or
a member of the
nobody.
Stingy
So
Men's
it's either you're
Association.
stingy or you don't have anything at all, so you can't afford. So I
Yo.
didn't want to be the guy who's a Wanga.
Can you imagine? So your ego and your pride was at play.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Ay.
But anyway,
Yeah, okay.
So let's cut the story
Yeah.
short, right? So when all of this is happening, and this is now into the middle of the second month, so we're almost getting to the end of the third month, right?
Yeah.
So one of these days, and I think in that week, she was avoiding me. So the second week of the third month, so she's avoiding me, and I'm like, huh? What did I do? So as far as I can remember, I didn't say anything or do anything. So what's going on? Is it like she's having stress again about that other guy, right? So 3 days into this week, I'm like, hi, well, she's not even replying my messages now, my SMSs. So she's not picking up calls. What's going on? So I knew where she worked, but then I had never gone into the office. Like, I always just wait for them outside the main entrance, right?
Them
So
being
on
her and
that
her
day,
friend.
her and her friend. So when I picked them up, I used to pick them up there. But most of the time, they never gave me the chance to go there, because they would come to my workplace. So I would find them standing outside my building's main entrance.
Yeah.
So this time, so on this day, it was the fourth day, right? I'm like, you know what? Something is wrong. So let me go see this girl. I need to talk to her. So I walk to the office block.
Yeah.
And then I try calling her outside the main entrance. She's not picking up. I send her an SMS. She's not picking up. I'm like, you know what? Let me just go into the office. So I take the stairs. I think they were on the third floor. And then I walk up the stairs. And as soon as I get into the door. I didn't know her friend was the receptionist. So I immediately get in. I'm like, oh, hey, friend. Friend of Ginger, how are you doing? She's like, oh, hi, how are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm here to see Ginger. And is everything okay? Because she hasn't been picking up. She hasn't been responding. She hasn't been replying. And then this friend has like a shocked look. Like it's like she's seen a ghost when she saw me. So I'm like, what's going on? Like the look on your face, is she dead or did something happen?
Yeah.
You know? And then so I'm getting concerned. And then she just keeps looking at me and she doesn't say anything for like 2 minutes. And I say, what's wrong? And she's like, you know what, Ginger is not here. So don't worry, she's still alive. Nothing has happened to her, but she's not here right now. And listen, we're actually about to close up, so you need to go. I'm like, hey, hold on. I just got here.
Yeah.
So tell me more about Ginger. What's going on? You her friend, right? So tell me what's going on. She's like, no, dude. Actually, like, we're running out of time. You have to. I'm like, no, listen. Tell me what's happening with Ginger. I didn't know that she was covering up because Ginger was in the next room.
Like literally the
And
next door.
literally the next door.
Wow.
So what happened after I'm having this back and forth with her friend. I started hearing arguments in the next room. And I'm like, but wait a minute. So it sounds like there's an argument in the next office. Who are these people shouting at each other? And I hear there's a male voice there and there's a female voice. And then as I listen, I'm like, wait, that's Ginger's voice.
Oh,
She's just voice, bro. And I'm like, yo, you're lying to me. Ginger is in there. She's like, no, that's not Ginger. It's someone who sounds like. I'm like, no.
Wow.
So to cut the long story short, they fought with each other with the guy that was there, and then I think he beat her or something like that, and then she came running out, and then he followed after her, and then this guy is so upset, and then he's making a whole lot of noise, and so the both of them come out, and now I'm standing there. There's Ginger there, there's a guy, and then the friend is there, and I'm trying to make sense of what's happening. And then Ginger sees me now. Oh, and then she just she gets a shock as well.
Yo,
like,
mad thing, man.
You are here. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I'm here to see you. So I've been trying to get hold of you. And then the guy is like, Ginger, who's this guy? And then now she's stammering. She's like, yeah, he's just a friend. And I look at him like, me, just a friend.
like where? You know, I've been sponsoring your lunch
where? You know,
break
like,
for the last 12 weeks.
And I asked the friend, I'm like, did you hear what Ginger said? She says I'm just a friend. So you and I, we know each other. And so Ginger is telling this guy that I'm just a friend. So can you tell the guy who I am? The guy's like, Ginger, who's this guy? And Ginger repeats it again. She's like, no, he's just a friend. Then I'm like, okay, hold on, Ginger. Who's this guy? And Ginger's like, yeah, this is my boyfriend. And I'm like, what?
Can you imagine hearing that?
And you know what? The only thing I could do, Tinto, like I was upset, yes, but I just turned my head around. I left that office. I went down the stairs and I never went back. That was the last I saw of Ginger. That's how it ended.
That is nuts.
That is nuts. And that is nuts. And just to add a little icing to the cake.
Yeah.
So I link up with Ginger. That happened in 2008, the relationship and the breakup.
Yeah.
So in about 2014 or 2015, I link up with her on Facebook. Then
who sent a request to the other?
I sent friend request.
Why?
So I see a picture. Just curious.
What were you curious about?
Let's see what's happening with her life. I last saw this person in a crazy moment. So what's she up to now? So I add a friend request and then I DM her. And then she replies the message, oh, hi, how are you doing, Oma? I'm like, I'm fine. you cool? I'm like, but can you explain to me something? So I went straight for it. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
what happened and what were you doing? And then she's like, what do you mean what happened? I'm like, can't he, you remember how we broke up? She's like, you mentioning we broke up as if we dated.
What?
Tinto! I'm like, we dated? She's like, no, we never dated. I'm like, hi, boy. And then, like, we had a thing, like, for like 3 months. She's like, no, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh. Bro.
That was the last time I ever heard of Ginger.
Hey, do you know, I'm glad that's the last you heard of Ginger and from Ginger, man.
Yeah.
Because, hey, do you know, even I felt that jab. You know, what you've just said, I felt it as if it was being told to me. You know, that no, we weren't ever what you imagined us to be.
You know.
Hey, it's happened to me before. It has. And funny enough, it's about the same time period, about 3 months.
Mhm.
You know, where I genuinely thought that me and this girl had something, but I always knew there was an ex lurking in the picture somewhere. But the image I had been given of their situation was, it was so dire, it was
Mm.
dead. And then a few years
Mm.
later, I asked the question, like, you know, but what really happened to us? She's like, what do you
Mm.
mean us?
What do you mean?
You know, bro, hey, I'm sorry, man. Hey,
No, it's part of the game, man. It is what it is. But so I think in retro,
yeah,
so I think it was easy for me to move on because you know when you grow up and you mature and you try to make sense of things.
yeah,
That's how I ended up giving you the two lessons that I told you. That I think the first thing that happened was I was infatuated.
yeah.
She wasn't in it. But then I think maybe she took advantage of the way she knew how I felt about her. So she decided to
Of
string me along.
course.
So I had an infatuation and then she decided to just dangle the carrot and I went for it. And then at the at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that was 2008, man. So a whole
Mm,
lot of things were happening. So not only in relationships, so you can imagine how hard it was for relationships at the time. So if you had a father failing to provide for his family or for
yeah,
his wife, like things were insane.
yeah. Of
So
course, yeah,
relationship in that time period might not have been something that would have worked anyway.
yeah, yeah.
So, and maybe to a certain extent, she was desperate. So, which is why I said maybe desperate times call for desperate measures.
And you know, it's interesting that you say that desperate times call for desperate measures from her side, but you also had a moment, you know, which
Yeah.
was desperate for you, which was to understand why this person just wasn't responding. So you took it
Mm-hmm.
upon yourself to go where you wouldn't normally go, which is the office, go into the
Mm-hmm.
building, insist on seeing the individual and challenge the friend
Exactly.
because you were
Mm-hmm.
equally desperate, and during that desperate time you did a desperate
Mm-hmm.
move.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that lesson really comes to life on both your part and on Ginger's part.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's it.
Oh my
That's my story,
gosh,
man.
bro. Hey,
It's unforgettable, man. It's 2008, like me, 2021,
yeah,
but I
and now
remember
I
that one.
understand why it was so important for you to emphasize the 2008 aspect. It really
Yeah,
puts a lot of things into perspective. That was a tough year for every
it
Zimbabwean.
was a tough year for
And for you to
everyone.
be in that position of privilege to have not only a job, but a well paying
Mhm.
job,
You know?
was a blessing. But it's a blessing that was taken advantage of by
Yeah,
Ginger.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
one last question for you now.
Hmm.
When you see someone with a banging body, what's your first reaction now?
To be honest, things haven't changed much. Tito, it's a primal
I was
instinct,
hoping
Tinto.
you
So
wouldn't
I,
say
we are.
that, man. That is the wrong answer. Let's try this again. When you see a banging body, what do you do now? It's not gonna change, is it?
The only thing that's changed is I'm in a different stage of life. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
married, two children,
yeah,
happy.
yeah, yeah.
So
So it makes it. Oh, do you know what? I'm glad you're able to find someone,
yeah.
you know, who eventually built a family with. And and also what's really good is, there's situations where people don't have closure. That day
Yeah.
that you left that building, you left, but you had a lot of questions to say,
A lot
okay,
of them.
so if she had a guy, why did she allow me to be intimate with her? Why did she allow me to
Hmm.
interact with her? All of these questions.
I never got the answers, man.
And that's really the reason why you looked for on Facebook, because you needed to
Hmm.
understand why that happened, at least so that you could close that chapter and move on,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Those 6 years between 2008 and 2014 were not easy
Hmm.
for you because you were in emotional turmoil, and sometimes I sometimes say it's better to get a slap on the face than to be
You
hit
know
with
what?
words that
So
stay in your mind for
you're
years.
actually right that it was an emotional turmoil because from there, from 2008
Yeah.
until 2011 or 12,
Mm-hmm.
I was single. I was not asking out any girls. I was not dating.
Mm.
I was like, you know what? I don't want to meet another ginger. It cannot
Yeah, of
happen
course. Yeah,
again.
yeah. No, do you know what? Apart from not meeting another ginger, you were nursing heartache, bro.
Mm.
And some of the things that also came to play are the fact that this is from somebody that you liked from high school.
Yeah,
So it's an emotion you carried from high school through university, through into your working life as an adult.
man.
And then all it needed was 3 months for it to ruin and break. Excuse my French, but that was a mind fuck. You couldn't.
So
Your
you can say
mind.
that
Your
again, man.
mind couldn't process and get over it.
You can
But
say that again.
thank goodness in a funny way, she did you a big favor in 2014 by saying to you, "What are you talking about? We were never an item."
Mm-hmm.
Because that released you from your own emotional bondage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It did, man.
It
It actually did.
allowed you to have
Mhm.
finality and say,
Yes.
okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was really just
It was
spending
just
money.
me.
Yeah, it was just you, and
There
then you
was
were
nothing.
just losing money because
Yeah.
she wanted to take advantage of a situation.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Hey, now thanks for sharing this, bro. I totally enjoyed this episode. For those who were listening, two main lessons came out. The first one was that desperate times call for desperate measures, and the second was that infatuation is not enough to justify getting into a relationship. Omar, I can't
Mm-hmm.
thank you enough for making this happen. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me, Tinto.
And you've been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I'll catch you on next weekend's episode. Peace. Zitara kendi Julie, mwana wa Fili.